Paul McBeth, the greatest of all time. At least that's what I think. I'm interested to see what you guys think after seeing this video. This is going to be a fun one, getting to go back and look at Paul McBeth and see every single one of his major victories. Now, disc golf has developed quite a bit over the last few decades, especially when it comes to majors. Now, we're only going to be looking at McBeth today, so I'm just going to go back from where he started playing majors, nothing before. So for the past decade or so of McBeth playing professionally, major championships have been in constant flux. Since 2012, when McBeth got his first major win, spoilers, there were two constant majors that happened every year, Worlds and USDGC. The next most consistent tournament was the European Open. Other than those, disc golf was adding and dropping major events every year. Some years they would have 3 majors, some 4, and even some years with 5 majors. With that much changing came opportunity, and McBeth capitalized on it. That's where we hop in. Today we're going to look at every major event that McBeth won. Back to 2012, here we go. McBeth only claimed one title in 2012. Worlds, held in Charlotte, North Carolina, was a pretty fun event. McBeth had come up short in the previous few years, unable to crack even the top 10. 2012 was different. He came into the tournament already with a couple wins in the year, and he used that momentum to take the lead going into the final round. For Worlds in 2012, they would play 6 rounds, make a cut, play another full round, make a cut to the top 4, then those final 4 would play 9 more holes to determine a winner. McBeth had a 7-shot lead with 9 holes to go. He played smart, was able to hold off Ricky for his first world title. That's one world title, many more to go. 2013 would be a good year for McBeth. Heading into the first major of the year, the Copenhagen Open, McBeth would be playing really solid. Going into the final round, McBeth would be tied for second with Will Schustrick, 3 shots back of David Owens. Schustrick and Owens would play solid, but McBeth would play great, making only one mistake. He wins the Copenhagen Open by 1 shot. Next major event in the year, we would stay in Europe. Going from Denmark to Finland, the European Open would make for a really good finish. Going into the final round, McBeth would have a 1-shot lead over Schustrick and a 4-shot lead over David Feldberg. Feldberg would be the one to give McBeth a run for his money. With 3 holes left to play, McBeth's lead would only be 1 shot. On 16, McBeth would fail to make the island green on the 2nd shot. This resulted in a par save, but Feldberg would birdie the hole. On hole 17, the wind would force Feldberg's disc OB. The wind would do the same to McBeth's, but his would hit a tree and cut rolls inbounds. McBeth pars, Feldberg bogeys, back to McBeth with the lead. On 18, it would basically throw the same tee shots and up shots. McBeth would miss the windy putt, leaving Feldberg a chance to force a playoff.
You gotta hit it.
Yeah, gotta hit it to force the playoff.
Oh!
He would clip the chains but not make it, giving McBeth his 2nd major win on the year. The next tournament McBeth would play in would be the World Championships. Different venue but same competition, McBeth and Feldberg going at it. This one wouldn't end up close though. McBeth would win the World Championship in Crown Point, Indiana by 5 shots. 2013, McBeth would win 3 of 4 major events. That's not even his best year. On to 2014. Just like in the year prior, the European Open and World Championships would be back-to-back events for McBeth. He would play both of them extremely well. In 2014, the European Open would be called the European Masters, held in Stockholm, Sweden. McBeth won the year prior in Nokia, Finland, where the majority of the European majors are held. McBeth would actually be trailing heading into the final round against Carl Nybo. Down 2 shots to start the final round, McBeth would start to make up ground when he birdied hole 8. Nybo would then bogey hole 9, giving McBeth a 1-shot lead heading into the final 9 holes. His lead would stretch when Nybo bogeyed the 13th hole. Nybo would only get 1 more birdie in the next 5 holes. Meanwhile, McBeth would make a long putt on hole 15 and tap-ins on 17 and 18. Back-to-back European major champion. A couple weeks later, McBeth would enter the World Championships, looking for his 3rd world title in a row. This would be his closest battle yet. Young Ricky Wysocki had started to emerge on the scene, actually getting 3rd at the European major that Paul just won. This time in Portland, Oregon, Ricky would make it a much closer match. Same format for Worlds, 7 18-hole rounds, then a final 9 holes with the 4 best golfers. After all these holes, McBeth and Ricky would be tied. One of the best playoffs in disc golf history would ensue. The playoff almost ended on the first hole when McBeth's roller went about a foot from being OB. They both would make easy birdies. Second playoff hole, Ricky would park it. McBeth would overshoot by 35 feet. He would need to make this to keep the playoff alive. Third playoff hole would be easy birdies for both guys. Fourth playoff hole, it would get a little dicey. They both have circle edge putts. Ricky's just barely missing the top band, and McBeth's hitting right side chains but staying in. On to the 5th playoff hole. After playing such great disc golf over the course of so many rounds, it would come down to one mistake. Not by Paul, but by Ricky. The 5th playoff hole was a pretty easy par 5. Both guys are going to make birdie. It's not quite gettable in 2, but it's short enough that it's an easy upshot for the birdie. Ricky and Paul would both make good drives. In the end, it would come down to this shot by Ricky. One shot, stupid tree. Paul McBeth would make a simple birdie, winning his 3rd world title in a row. That would make for 2 major championships in 2014. On to 2015, where McBeth would do a lot of damage in major championships. Alright, this is the biggest year so far. A tournament we had yet to see was the Aussie Open in 2015. Held in Mundaring, Australia, this tournament wasn't really close. It was after the first few days, but once we got to the weekend, McBeth would start to pull away. He would end up beating players like Simon Lizotte, Wysocki, and Feldberg by 6 shots at least. Simon would pull within 3 for the final 9 holes, but would end up losing 3 more shots on the back 9. Alright, that's 1 for 1 in majors in 2015. In Sweden again, this time in Skellefteå. I hope I said that right. So you guys remember how like 5 seconds ago I said the Aussie tournament wasn't really close? Well, neither was the Scandinavian Open. Yeah, McBeth won by 11 shots. Cool course, cool tournament, the first Scandinavian championship for McBeth. Not much to say when he wins by 11 shots. Mohawk McBeth 2 for 2 in major championships. Alright, enough of the blowout wins, time for a really good battle. Next major European Open, McBeth versus Ricky versus Jeremy Colling. This is the first tournament we would see where McBeth had a pretty solid lead and it was caught up to by multiple players. 3-shot lead over Ricky going into the final round. Now nothing really happened on the front 9, but Paul maintained his 3-shot lead over Ricky. But not on his card was Jeremy Colling, and he was scorching the course. He would get into the clubhouse with 29 under. The back 9 for this Open played tough, and Paul would be at 30 under with 9 holes to play. So Ricky would birdie holes 10 and 11, now only 1 back of Paul. They would both bogey hole 13. Paul's at 29 under, Ricky at 28, Colling in the clubhouse at 29. For the first time in the final round, after having a 3-shot lead, McBeth would now be tied with Ricky after Ricky birdies the 14th hole. 4 holes to play, 3 players tied at 29. Hole 15, Ricky has a tap-in birdie. McBeth is left with this awkward, from-the-knee straddle putt to stay tied for the lead. 16 would be where the tournament was won. A very tough par 4, Ricky has the box. He actually hits the cameraman on the edge of the OB and stays inbound. McBeth keeps his in play as well. The approach shot is set up as an island green. McBeth goes first, basically parks it. This is Wysocki on his approach shot.
He was excited. He really wanted to kind of run it back, and he just juiced it too far. And then a very rare miss from him a second time. He actually takes too much off of it, and he needs to correct, throwing another forehand, skipping over the hay bales out of bounds. We've seen it happen.
Paul makes birdie, he's at 31 under and Ricky's at 28 under after his double. McBeth would coast on the last 2 holes. This would be his 3rd major win of the year. Like I said in the intro, some years would have 5 majors. This was one of those years. Okay, back to starching people. 2015 World Championship, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. McBeth is going for his 4th world title in a row. I wish I could say this one was close, but it wasn't. This was one of McBeth's largest wins in a major, winning by 9 shots over Ricky again. Easiest win for McBeth in a major championship, playing his own game. The final 9 holes of Worlds for him wasn't even stressful. I mean, he had a 12-shot lead going into it. 12-shot lead in 6 18-hole rounds. That's crazy. 4 for 4 on majors so far. One last major, one we have yet to see. The United States Disc Golf Championship. The one that McBeth had been chasing for the last 8 years. USDGC is always held at the same course, Winthrop Gold in Rock Hill, South Carolina. McBeth had been chasing this event for years, multiple top 10s, and in the year prior he had placed 2nd, losing to Will Schustrick in a playoff. In 2015, McBeth returned for his revenge, looking to sweep the major events on the year. Paul and Ricky started the final round, both 3 back of Nate Sexton. Sexton would have a very bad final round, ending up in 4th, but Ricky and Paul would battle it out. Ricky would actually pull ahead on the front 9, leading by 1. Hole 10, McBeth would double and Ricky would birdie, stretching his lead to 3 shots. So McBeth and Wysocki are on an island at this point. Nobody else is really in range. It's just left to them to battle it out for the last 8 holes. Ricky with a 3-shot lead. McBeth would only go 2 under on those final 8 holes. Conditions were tough, it was getting dark, it was raining, all of these factors for what happened on holes 12 and 17. Both of them to Ricky. He would throw it OB twice on hole 12, taking a triple. This wouldn't be the end for Ricky. He actually fought back and actually tied it up going into hole 17. 17, infamous in the disc golf world, island green, really sneaky, really tough. It has ended many disc golfers' runs at championships. It would end Ricky's that day and grant McBeth his first USDGC title. Ricky would throw 2 forehands OB. McBeth, well, he would throw a buttery backhand, parked for the win. Ricky would take a quadruple bogey, giving McBeth a 5-shot lead going into the final hole. This would be McBeth's 5th major in 2015. 5 for 5 on majors, one of the best disc golf seasons we have ever seen. By 2015, McBeth would have 11 major titles. We've got to see so many different faces battle it out with McBeth for all these championships. This year, 2017, we got to see a new face. We head to the European Open back in Finland, a course we have already seen. Battling with McBeth was Greg Barsby. There were other guys around the leaderboard, but they would eventually fall off. It would only be Greg and Paul in the home stretch. They would be tied on the back 9 until hole 14, where Barsby would take a 1-shot lead. They tie on 15, only 3 more holes to play. Hole 16, I love this because we've already seen this hole where Ricky made mistakes that cost him the win. Now we get to see what happens on the island green when both guys play it well. Here's both of their approach shots.
Bag in the background, and he kind of reset himself, which a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, and that's just a clutch approach there. Put himself maybe
A must get with only 2 holes left after this.
and that just barely clears the hay bales there.
Hole 17, Barsby's approach is just a bit short. McBeth, on the other hand, running it just past the basket. McBeth ties it up. We head to hole 18. Time and time again, if McBeth holds on and plays smart, his opponents make mistakes. We saw it with Ricky. Now we see it with Barsby. Here's Barsby's drive on 18.
Here, and that's
Oh my goodness, that I didn't see how it went OB, but man, I mean, at this point,
But it wasn't over yet. McBeth throws a good drive up the gut. Barsby drops it in the fairway, then puts his approach shot in circle 2. So if he makes that, he makes par, leaving it to McBeth to birdie to win. McBeth's approach shot bounces off the wall that's just OB and hops back in bounds. Here's Barsby with the par putt.
huge. I mean, if he makes this putt,
oh my God, look at that.
all right, so all of a sudden, match play. Now it's back on your shoulders. You have to make your putt for the win, and you're not under the basket.
Now that he's made that, McBeth has to make this for the win. What a finish to another great major.
And this is a
That's a championship putt right there. I mean, that's
That would be McBeth's only major win in 2017, but it would be his 4th European major win. On to 2018. USDGC, we already talked about it. McBeth won this back in 2015. So far, the only tournaments McBeth has won multiples of are Worlds and the European Open. 2018 would be McBeth's final season with Innova. After this, he would sign his big deal with Discraft. USDGC was his final major win before doing that. After 2 rounds, McBeth had a 7-shot lead over new face James Conrad. McBeth cooled off, but he had such a big lead that he just needed to play smart. McBeth had a 4-shot lead with the final 9 holes to go. Conrad would eagle the 10th hole, a very gettable par 4 and 1. Now it's only a 2-shot lead. McBeth would slip on his approach shot on hole 12, throwing it OB. He drops another shot. Hole 13, Conrad birdies. Now we have a tied ball game with 5 holes to go. Always down to the wire for McBeth. Now we have seen many moments where McBeth's opponents crumble with the pressure. They make mistakes. They almost hand the tournament to McBeth. This time McBeth makes a slip up. Holes 14, 15, and 16, McBeth gains a stroke each time on Conrad. Now we go into hole 17 where McBeth actually has a 3-shot lead. Here's his tee shot on the island green 17.
Too high.
And that is going to be a rethrow, and this is
We've seen this happen to many players. This is such a huge shot now. Firebird. Can it clear the hay bales?
great recovery shot, and he's gonna have
He would then make a circle's edge putt to save the bogey. Conrad birdies. We go into 18 with McBeth only having a 1-shot lead. Like I said before, McBeth's opponents usually make the mistake and he just plays smart. Mistakes happened on 17, but it didn't change what McBeth was going to do on 18. Both him and Conrad throw great drives. Here's McBeth's approach shot, 1-shot lead. If he parks it, game over.
Take this green.
this
He's
is the
going-
tournament.
Hyper aggressive. He loves it.
Oh wow!
And why wouldn't he? Bullseye.
This would be McBeth's 2nd USDGC title and another year with a major win. This is our last time looking at the European major event. McBeth's already won this event 4 times. This would make him a 5-time champion. We have 18 holes left to play and McBeth is in 3rd place by 5 shots. Ricky's at 28 under, Eagle McMahon's at 27 under. Over the next 9 holes, McBeth would make up 4 shots on the leader. Now with only 9 to play, Ricky is 1 up on him and he's tied with Eagle. The most important holes for the championship would happen early on. Ricky dropping after doubling 10, Eagle would bogey holes 11 and 12. This would help McBeth take the lead, but guess what? McBeth birdies 10, 11, 13, 14, and 16. Not much you're going to do, he's going to get ahead. McBeth would win his 5th major open by 2 shots, after trailing by 5 shots. One of the biggest deficits overcome that we have ever seen. Can't talk about European majors and McBeth without talking about Worlds just a few weeks later. If he wins Europe, he's probably going to win Worlds. And what's Worlds without a great battle with Ricky Wysocki? Peoria, Illinois hosted the World Championship in 2019. 2 courses, Lake Eureka and Northwood Gold. McBeth would play them great, so would Wysocki. And that's about it. There's an 8-shot difference between 2nd place and 3rd. A true 1v1 battle. That wasn't how the final round started. McBeth actually had a 6-shot lead over Wysocki. Emerson Keith was in 2nd by 2 shots, but he quickly fell off. The back 9 would be a birdie fest. Neither player would make higher than a par. It would all come down to who could make the most birdies. McBeth would make birdie on the first 6 holes of the back 9. Wysocki would birdie 5 of those 6 holes, but he kept making birdies while Paul made a couple pars. We step up to hole 18, McBeth with a 2-shot lead. Hole 18 is set up for a very long turnover shot where you could get within throwing distance of the basket. Paul obviously plays safe, but Ricky throws a great drive out over the water to be close for the eagle. It came down to this shot by Ricky. Needs to make it to force the playoff.
Oh my God, it was that close. What a charge.
Ricky shoots 14 under, but Paul holds him off. His 5th world title and 2nd major of the year. On to Paul's final major win. USDGC, I don't think we could have asked for a better one to finish on. Paul already has 5 world titles, 5 European titles, now he's looking for his 3rd United States title. But one newcomer would stand in his way, Kyle Klein. McBeth actually had a 6-shot lead over Klein going into the final round, but Klein would shoot 10 under on the final round. And he actually had this moment on 18 to shoot 11 under. McBeth would step up to hole 17 where Klein has a 1-shot lead over him. He needs to make this putt to go 26 under.
In this long. Unbelievable stuff.
McBeth would then have this putt on 18 for a chance to win the tournament. If he misses, it's a playoff for Klein. Playoff it is, hole 1, a tricky Mando tunnel shot. Klein is up first, his drive pushing just left of the basket, a little cut off on the putt. McBeth flushes it, almost acing it. That would have been incredible. Here are the final 2 putts of the championship.
Your 2021 champion, McBeth.
This would be McBeth's last major win to the date. In total, Paul McBeth holds 16 major titles. These titles span over the course of 10 years. McBeth winning over a major and a half each year. 5 world titles, 5 European titles, 3 USDGC titles, an Aussie, Scandinavian, and Copenhagen Open title. His victories span 5 countries, 3 different continents. How can you not say Paul McBeth's the greatest of all time? So many majors, so many different events. It was so cool seeing him win all these tournaments and all these venues. Thanks for watching the video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you like this kind of content, make sure to go check out my channel. All right, we'll see you guys next time.